Have you ever known exactly what you wanted to do and then you talked yourself out of it? Maybe you wanted to say no. Maybe you wanted to speak up. Or maybe you knew what felt right for you, and then within seconds, the overthinking started. You worried about disappointing someone. You questioned yourself. And you even convinced yourself to choose something else. If you've ever found yourself thinking, why do I keep doing that? This episode is for you. Because the problem may not be that you don't know what you want. The problem might be that you've stopped trusting yourself enough to stay with it. Come on in. It's time to choose your happy life. Wherever you are, whatever kind of day you're having, this is your reminder. You have a choice. If you're ready to break free from self-doubt and negative thinking, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Marie, and this is the Choose Happy with Marie podcast. Welcome. Hello, how are you? I hope you're doing well and enjoying the warmer weather. I hope you're getting warmer weather because we are here, and I'm super happy about that. Today, I want to talk about something that I think it happens so quickly that most of us don't even notice it. It's a moment. It could be a tiny moment, but it changes so many of the decisions we make. It's the moment when you know what you want, and then you choose something else. It isn't because you didn't know, or that you weren't clear, or that you needed more information. Perhaps you may have. You knew. You just didn't stay with it. And if you've ever found yourself saying, I knew I should have trusted my gut. I knew that wasn't what I wanted. I knew better. Then I think you're going to see yourself in today's conversation. Let's say someone asks you a question, or they ask you for a favor, or a commitment, or a plan, and your first reaction is immediate. You know, whether you want to do it or not, whether you have the energy or not, or even if you know whether it feels right or not, you know whether it's a yes or a no. But then something happens. You start thinking. You start considering everyone else, wondering what the right answer is. You start worrying about disappointing someone. Start talking yourself out of what you felt in that very first moment. And before you know it, you're no longer listening to yourself. Instead, you're listening to your fear, the guilt, the overthinking, the people-pleasing tendencies. And later, maybe that night or a few days later, you realize, I knew what I wanted. I just didn't listen to myself. And that realization can be incredibly frustrating because it makes you wonder, why do I keep doing that? I hear women say all the time, Marie, I just need clarity. I just need a little more clarity. I need to figure out what I want. I need to trust my gut more. And while that's true sometimes, I do want you to trust your gut more. I don't think that's the real issue for most of us. I think many women already know far more than they give it themselves credit for. The problem isn't that you don't know. The problem is that you've gotten so used to questioning yourself. You've gotten used to asking everyone else what they think before checking in with yourself. Or you've gotten used to treating your own feelings like they need approval before they count. So instead of listening to yourself, you override yourself. And you do it so quickly that you barely notice it happening. Sound familiar? This is actually one of the biggest things I help women inside my private coaching. I don't teach them what to do. I don't give them more advice. What I do is I help them reconnect with themselves so they can hear their own voice again. Because once you start listening to yourself, everything begins to change. And I'll come back to that a little later with a few more details. This shows up in so many ordinary moments. It can show up as you get a text from a friend asking for a favor. Before you've even checked in with yourself, you've already typed yes. Someone asks, "Are you free for the weekend?" You say yes automatically, and then immediately feel drained. You want to set a boundary, but you convince yourself it's not worth the conversation. You want to speak up, but decide you'll just let it go. You rewrite a text message 3 times because you're worried you'll sound selfish. You say yes when you mean no. You stay quiet when you want to speak. You choose what makes everyone else comfortable instead of what feels true for you. Not because you're weak, not because you're incapable, but because you've spent years learning to prioritize everyone else's needs before your own. I noticed this in myself recently, and I want to share this example with you. Last month, I bought a new car, which is pretty cool. I've never done it before. And when I first saw it in the car lot, I'd done lots of research online. There was a color I absolutely loved. It was like a turquoise type shade. And those of you who know me, you know I love the Caribbean. So it reminded me of Caribbean waters, of being on a sandy beach. There was no confusion. I didn't have a pros and cons list. I wasn't overthinking. I just knew. I knew it was the right color for me. Then later, when it came time to make the final decision and to place a deposit on the car, I brought my husband with me. Do we know where we're going with this? Even though I was going to be the primary and only driver of this car, I wanted to get his input too, being my husband and my partner in life. What happened? Well, he looked at the other options in the lot and suggested another color. His reasoning was completely valid. He thought it might have better resale value because it was more of a purple, blue type color, bright color. He liked it. It made sense, I suppose. I tried to convince myself, and almost immediately, I noticed something happen. I started moving away from what I wanted. Not because my husband was forcing me, although he was, giving me his opinion. Not because he was wrong. Maybe that would be a better color for resale value. But because someone else's opinion suddenly felt louder than my own. And I could actually feel myself losing confidence in something I had already been clear about. Does that sound familiar? Has that happened in your life recently? I became so unsure that I called my daughter, and she laughed and said, "Mom, that's not your color. You already know which one you want." And she was right, and I am so grateful to her for helping me see what I had wanted. It's been over a month that I've had the car, and I've had no regrets having ordered the color that I really wanted. Only happy feelings when I sit in the car and look at it. What struck me wasn't just the color choice. It was how quickly I stopped listening to myself. And I teach people how to do this. How can this still be happening to me? Because it can creep on us so fast in everyday moments that is only through becoming aware that it is happening, then we can stop it from happening. Has this happened to you? Maybe not with a car specifically. Maybe with relationships with others, your partner, at work, opportunities, purchases, boundaries. Maybe it was your dreams or your needs, and maybe even your desires. What happens when we do this to ourselves? Well, it moves us a little farther away from ourselves and what we want for our life, our happy life. We're saying everyone else's opinion matters more than ours, that our needs can wait, that our feelings aren't as important. We're not doing that intentionally, but we are doing it, perhaps repeatedly. And eventually, you start feeling disconnected from yourself. You stop trusting your gut. You stop trusting your decisions. You stop trusting yourself. And then you start saying things like I hear often from many of our clients, I don't know what I want anymore, Marie. But often the truth is that you know. You've just stopped listening. The good news is that what I call self-trust, it doesn't start with a huge life decision. It actually starts with a pause, a tiny pause. It's a moment between the question and the answer. It's a moment where instead of automatically responding to whatever somebody's recommending or suggesting, you check in with yourself and you ask yourself, what do I want? What feels true for me? What is my gut telling me? Not what I should do, not what would make everyone around me happy, because we do that already. We've been doing that for a while. Not what makes the most sense, but what feels right for me. That pause might only last a few seconds, but it changes everything. Because perhaps for the first time, you're including yourself in the decision. And when you begin listening to yourself again, little things start shifting. You find yourself, you stop answering immediately. You'll buy yourself time. And that can look like saying, let me think about it. Can I get back to you? In my car example, how I bought time was I called my daughter. I knew that there was a disconnect happening, and it started with awareness. I could feel it in my gut. I just needed someone else in my life to remind me to check in and follow through on what matters to me. You will notice that how you feel matters. Check in before you respond. Stop over-explaining to others. Stop needing everyone else's approval. Start trusting your own judgment. And maybe the decision itself isn't always different, but your relationship with yourself becomes different. You stop abandoning your own voice and start valuing it. I trusted that the color I was choosing was right for me, not for the resale potential that someone else would enjoy, but for me to enjoy today. If this sounds simple, you're right. But simple doesn't always mean easy, because these moments, they happen in real life. They happen when you're tired, when you're busy, when you're under pressure, and when someone demands an answer right now. And that's why awareness alone isn't always enough. It's a starting point. Because change doesn't happen while you're listening to this podcast or any other podcast. It happens when life is happening. And that's where I find so many women get stuck. And that's exactly why I created a new private coaching program experience. It's for women who are tired of second-guessing themselves. Women who want to stop overthinking every decision. It's for those of you who want to trust your gut again. It's for those of you who want to stop living everyone else's version of your life and start creating a life that's yours, that feels like yours. Together, we will work on real-life moments where you keep getting pulled away from yourself, whether it's the conversations, any decisions, or boundaries. It's the everyday situations where self-trust either grows or disappears. And little by little, you will find you start listening to yourself again. We're not expecting perfection, but it's going to happen consistently. And that changes everything. If today's episode feels like it's describing your life, I'll put the application link in the show notes. Read through it, sit with it, and see if it's right for you. As you move through this week, I want you to notice something. Notice that first response before the overthinking kicks in, before the guilt kicks in, and even the people-pleasing. Before the doubt, notice what is your gut telling you, and then see if you can stay with it a little longer, because the goal isn't to become a different person. The goal is to come back to yourself, to listen to yourself, to trust yourself, one small moment at a time. And every time you choose differently, you're choosing your happy life. And that's exactly what we're here for. Wishing you a wonderful week choosing your happy life. Cheers. Thanks for listening to Choose Happy with Marie. If today's episode spoke to you, I would love it if you could share it with a friend or leave a quick review for the show. It helps more women find this kind of support. Remember, you don't have to overhaul your life to start feeling better. You just have to choose happy right where you are, one choose happy choice at a time. I'll see you next time. Take care.